Welcome to our deep dive today. We're going to be kind of exploring the life and times of Shurahbil ibn Hassana,
Okay.
who yeah, maybe a lot of people haven't heard of,
Right.
but we're going to learn about him today because he was super important.
Yeah, he's one of those figures who, played a huge role in early Islamic history,
Yeah.
particularly in the region now known as Jordan and Palestine.
Yeah,
But his story isn't as widely told as some others.
right.
And so that's kind of what we do in these deep dives, right? We kind of unearth these hidden gems
Yeah.
of history and we figure out why they matter.
Right, exactly. Yeah, like he really did shape the landscape of Jordan and Palestine, you could say.
Absolutely.
Um, so I guess to start with, his name itself is a bit of a mystery. Shurahbil ibn Hassana.
Yeah,
It means he's named after his mother.
that's right. Yeah, not typical at all.
Yeah.
So it points to this cloud of mystery kind of surrounding his father.
Yeah.
There's a lot of debate among historians about who his father was. What we do know is that Hassana was clearly a strong woman, raising him in a time and place where that was not easy.
Yeah.
And they both converted to Islam very early on.
Right. Yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah, big statement.
It makes you think, like, what was it like back then
Right.
to be one of the first
Oh,
people
absolutely.
to embrace a faith that was so new?
This was during a period of, intense social and political upheaval in Mecca.
Right.
I mean, imagine being among the first to embrace a faith that really challenged the existing power structures.
Yeah.
So it really speaks volumes about their conviction.
Yeah, and courage, too, right?
Absolutely.
Because they didn't just convert.
No, they didn't just
They
convert.
migrated to Abyssinia not once, but twice.
Not once, but twice. That's right.
What was that about?
Yeah, so this is where you see their commitment really put to the test. Persecution of early Muslims in Mecca was just relentless. Abyssinia, a Christian kingdom known for its tolerance, became a refuge for them.
Okay.
So the first migration was a smaller group.
But as the pressure increased,
Yeah.
a second wave, including Shurahbil and his family, set sail,
Wow.
leaving everything behind.
It must have been terrifying,
Oh, I'm sure it was terrifying.
but also hopeful in a way.
Incredibly hopeful.
Right.
Leaving everything behind, the uncertainty, the risks.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, Shurahbil wasn't alone. His stepfather, Sufyan ibn Mamar,
Okay.
and his stepbrothers, Jabir and Junada, also converted and joined this exodus.
Wow. So it's a real family affair.
Incredible story of family and faith
Yeah.
and resilience.
It really puts things into perspective.
Yeah.
When you think about, the foundations of that community were built on incredible acts of sacrifice.
Absolutely.
So they eventually did return to Medina.
Right.
What happened to Shurahbil then? What was his role?
So picture this.
Okay.
He arrives in Medina
Yeah.
with this incredible history of sacrifice and dedication.
Okay.
And the Prophet Muhammad recognizes this
Okay.
and bestows upon Shurahbil an incredible honor. Okay, spill the beans. What is it?
He became one of the scribes of Revelation,
Oh,
entrusted with the monumental task of writing down the verses of the Quran.
so like the Quran we have today
Precisely.
is thanks to his work.
His contribution to preserving those divine words is just immeasurable.
Yeah.
And it's a legacy that continues to impact the lives of billions of people even today.
Wow.
But here's the thing about Shurahbil. His talents weren't limited to the pen.
Wait, there's more.
Oh, yeah.
What else did he do? Don't tell me he was like a warrior poet or something.
Well, not a poet, but certainly a warrior.
Okay.
His story takes a fascinating turn during the caliphate of Abu Bakr, the first caliph after the prophet's death.
Okay.
He emerges as this skilled military strategist
Okay.
and a leader of men.
So we're going from the quiet world of scholarship to the battlefield now.
They are indeed.
Oh.
It speaks to his versatility. During this period, the Muslim community faced internal conflicts known as the Ridda Wars,
The Ridda Wars.
or
Right.
Wars of Apostasy.
Right. And these were basically like a fight for the soul of this young Muslim community.
Exactly.
Wow.
After the prophet's death, some tribes saw an opportunity to break away,
Right.
challenge the newly established caliphate.
Yeah.
And Shurahbil served as second in command
Right?
to the legendary Khalid ibn al-Walid in the pivotal Battle of Yamama.
Okay.
This battle was brutal,
Yeah.
but the victory helped solidify the unity of the Muslim state.
So after these internal conflicts, I imagine the focus shifted outward.
Yes.
What role did he play in expanding the empire?
Well, the Byzantine Empire was a major force to be reckoned with at the time.
Yeah.
And Abu Bakr sent 4 divisions to the Levant.
Okay.
And Shurahbil was tasked with leading one of them.
Wow.
clearly a trusted and capable commander.
Yeah, he must have been.
He was involved in several key battles against the Byzantines.
Okay.
The fall of Busra,
Uh-huh.
a strategically vital city in Greater Syria, stands out.
Yeah.
And then there was the Battle of Ajnadin,
Okay.
a resounding defeat for the Byzantines. Okay.
These victories paved the way for the Muslim conquest of the region.
So his military resume was pretty impressive by this point.
Very much so.
But Abu Bakr didn't rule forever.
Right.
What happened when Umar ibn al-Khattab became the new caliph?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Umar replaced Khalid ibn al-Walid
Yeah.
with Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah as the overall commander.
Okay.
But Shurahbil retained his position as deputy commander.
Wow.
It's a testament to the respect he commanded and his proven abilities.
It seems like he navigated those leadership changes pretty seamlessly.
Yeah, he did.
Makes you wonder what kind of leader he was,
Right.
what his secret was.
Yeah.
But I feel like we're just scratching the surface.
We are.
What happens next? What's like the pinnacle of his story?
Well, buckle up, because what comes next is arguably Shurahbil's most enduring legacy.
Oh, boy.
With an army of 7,000 men,
Yeah.
he led the conquest of Jordan and parts of Palestine,
Wow.
shaping the very history of the region we're talking about today. Wow, that's huge. So for those of you listening who are from Jordan or Palestine,
Yeah.
we're talking about your history here.
That's great.
The ripple effects of his actions are still felt today.
Absolutely.
But I'm sensing a but coming.
Well,
It can't all be sunshine and roses, right?
as impressive as his military achievements were,
Yeah.
Shurahbil's life wasn't without its tragedies.
Okay.
And perhaps the most poignant chapter of his story is yet to come.
Okay. Last we left off, Shurahbil had just achieved this, incredible feat, conquering Jordan and Palestine with a relatively small army. It's kind of mind-boggling how one person can have such a, massive impact on the course of history. But I'm curious about what was it about his military strategy that made him so successful? Was it just like sheer bravery, or was there something more?
Oh, bravery was definitely a factor, but, Shurahbil was much more than just a, courageous fighter. What's really interesting is how he combined, that bravery with strategic cunning. He really understood the importance of really careful planning, scouting out the enemy, using the terrain to his advantage.
So he wasn't just charging into battle blindly. He was like a real strategist.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's this story about how during the conquest of Jordan, he, encountered this really heavily fortified Byzantine city. And instead of, launching a full frontal assault, which would have been incredibly costly, he chose to lay siege to the city.
Okay.
He cut off their supplies, played the waiting game, and eventually they surrendered without a major battle.
That's smart.
Yeah.
It's like he knew, the psychology of warfare,
Mhm.
knowing when to,
When to strike.
when to strike and when to be patient.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, that's a side of him we haven't really talked about yet.
It's a really crucial aspect of his leadership. He understood that victory didn't always require brute force.
Right.
Sometimes outsmarting your opponent was the most effective strategy.
Yeah, but beyond the strategy, what about his leadership style?
Well, we mentioned before that he was really known for his fairness and his genuine care for his troops.
Right.
So how did that, translate into his actions as a leader?
Well, there are tons of stories about Shurahbil's humility and his concern for his soldiers' well-being. He led by example, inspired loyalty and respect, not through fear or intimidation, but through, shared sacrifice. I can imagine that was probably a refreshing change in, a time when power was often wielded so harshly.
Oh, absolutely.
Do you have any, examples of his leadership in action? Something that really, shows his character?
Yeah, there's this really striking story about a really difficult march through the desert.
Oh?
Shurahbil refused to ride his horse while his men were on foot. He insisted on walking alongside them, enduring the same hardships as his men. Really, a powerful image of a leader who truly understood the meaning of shared burden.
That says a lot
It does.
about his character.
Yeah.
It's no wonder his men were so devoted to him.
Right. And it wasn't just his troops who held him in high regard.
Yeah, you mentioned that he served under two very different caliphs,
Yeah.
Abu Bakr and Umar,
Two very different personalities.
and they both trusted him. Right.
They both trusted him implicitly. That speaks to his adaptability.
Right?
His ability to work with people from different backgrounds, different leadership styles.
Yeah.
He navigated those transitions with remarkable grace.
Yeah.
Never letting personal ambition get in the way of his commitment to the Muslim community.
It's a real, I don't know, it's like a timeless leadership quality that, being able to build consensus.
Yeah.
unify people around a common purpose.
Absolutely.
But I want to kind of, shift our focus back to Jordan and Palestine. I mean, we know he conquered those lands, but what was like the lasting impact of his actions? Did he just like change borders, or was there something, more?
His conquests were about much more than just military victories.
Right.
He was really laying the groundwork for a new social and political order. He introduced Islamic governance, Islamic law, Islamic administration,
Oh, wow.
really planting the seeds for centuries of Islamic civilization in these lands.
So it was about more than just the battlefield.
It was?
He was like shaping society,
Shaping society.
building institutions,
It is.
creating this legacy that would like last.
Long after he was gone.
He oversaw the construction of mosques, establishment of courts, appointment of governors. He encouraged the spread of knowledge and scholarship, really fostering a new cultural landscape.
So, like, for our listeners who are, living in Jordan and Palestine today,
Yeah.
the mosques you visit, the legal systems you live under, even some of your cultural traditions
It all goes back.
have roots in what Shurahbil did. That foundation laid by Shurahbil and his contemporaries.
Wow, that's pretty amazing to think about.
It is.
It's a reminder that history isn't just something we, read about.
Yeah.
It's alive.
It's woven into our lives.
But we should acknowledge that Shurahbil's conquests were, part of a larger historical movement, right?
Of course, the early Muslim expansion.
And that wasn't always like a simple, straightforward process.
No, not at all.
Right.
The sources paint a much more intricate picture than just a simple narrative of conquest.
Right.
There were negotiations, alliances formed and broken, moments of conflict, moments of cooperation.
So it's important to kind of approach this with sensitivity,
Absolutely.
recognizing all the, the different layers.
And different perspectives.
Yeah, the different perspectives.
And that's what makes studying history so fascinating.
Yeah.
And so important. It's not about passing judgment on the past
Right.
based on our present day values.
Yeah.
Right. It's about understanding the context,
Right.
the motivations,
Yep.
the complexities of human choices. Recognizing the shades of gray that color our past.
That's a great point. It's a reminder to be humble
Yeah.
in the face of history.
Right.
You know?
We don't have all the answers.
Yeah, we don't have all the answers.
No.
Exactly. But going back to something we mentioned before,
Yeah.
Shurahbil's piety and his concern for his troops. Are there any like stories that really, I don't know, highlight these qualities? Those little glimpses into the, human side of things always fascinate me.
Well, there's one that really captures, his essence. During the Battle of Yarmouk, a pivotal battle against the Byzantines, Shurahbil was leading a charge when he noticed this young soldier,
Okay.
clearly terrified, just trembling in the face of battle. And
Wow.
instead of berating him for showing weakness,
Right.
Shurahbil dismounted his horse,
Whoa.
approached the young man gently, and offered words of encouragement.
Really?
He calmed his fears and reminded him of, the higher purpose that they were fighting for.
That's incredible. It's like this, I don't know, moment of human connection.
Yeah.
Amidst all the chaos.
The brutality of war.
Yeah.
It says a lot about his compassion,
Right.
his ability to connect with his men on a personal level.
It's a reminder that true leadership is, so much more than just giving orders.
Yes.
It's about,
Empathy.
empathy and understanding
Understanding.
and meeting people's needs.
Recognizing those human needs
Yeah.
of the people you lead.
Well, we know that Shurahbil's story doesn't end on the battlefield.
It doesn't.
We've mentioned his, tragic death during the plague of Amwaz.
Right.
I'm, really interested to hear more about his final days and what kind of legacy he left behind.
Well, that's where we'll pick up in our final segment. We'll explore his last act of leadership,
Okay.
his reflections on life and death,
Okay.
and the enduring lessons we can learn from his remarkable journey.
We've journeyed with Shurahbil from his conversion, his role as a scribe, his military victories, and his compassionate leadership. And now we're at, the final chapter of his life.
Yeah, his passing during the plague of Amwaz. A somber end to a life full of accomplishment and service.
Is.
But even in his final days, Shurahbil's character shines through.
Yeah, can we go back to that disagreement that he had with Amr ibn Alaz about the plague?
Oh, absolutely.
It's such a fascinating,
It is.
glimpse into how they dealt with this crisis.
Yeah, as the plague swept through the region, Amr, always the pragmatic strategist, he proposed isolating in different areas to try and contain the spread.
Right.
But Shurahbil had a different take on it.
Yeah.
He saw the plague not as something to be avoided,
Right.
but as like a path to paradise.
Wow.
a form of martyrdom that many righteous people had walked before.
Yeah, it's a tough concept to grasp today,
Yeah,
but it really speaks to, the depth of his faith.
it does, his worldview.
He wasn't really worried about, prolonging life.
Right.
It was about accepting God's will.
Exactly. Different interpretations,
Yeah.
different responses.
Even in the face of a shared crisis, right?
Absolutely. Shurahbil's perspective highlights that deep trust in God's plan,
Yeah.
belief in a reward beyond this earthly life.
Do we know anything about his final moments? What did he say?
As he lay dying, he said, "This is the mercy of your Lord,
Wow.
the supplication of your prophet, and the death of the righteous who came before you."
Really powerful words.
Statement of profound acceptance,
Yeah.
almost welcoming death.
And you mentioned before that he died on the same day as, I think it was Abu Ubaidah, right?
Yes, tragically, on that same day, Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah, the commander-in-chief of the Muslim army, also succumbed to the plague.
Wow.
A devastating blow to the community, losing two such important leaders.
Yeah, it really highlights, how fragile life can be,
Absolutely.
even for those who've achieved great things.
It does.
So as we look back on Shurahbil's life,
Hmm.
what are some of the key takeaways?
Well, I think his life is really an incredible example of faith, dedication, and service.
Yeah.
He was a man who wore many hats.
He did.
A devoted Muslim,
Yeah.
a meticulous scribe,
Yeah.
a skilled military leader.
A compassionate governor.
And in each of these roles, he excelled, always striving for excellence.
It makes you wonder, what was the driving force? What motivated him?
It's striking that, despite all his accomplishments, he remained grounded, humble.
Yeah.
He wasn't driven by personal ambition or a desire for power, but by a sincere commitment to serving the Muslim community.
It's a good reminder that true leadership isn't about, yourself.
Yeah.
It's about a cause that's bigger than you.
Exactly.
And for people listening in Jordan and Palestine today, his legacy is particularly meaningful.
Oh, absolutely.
His actions really shaped, their history and their culture.
Yeah, his conquests brought Islam to the area, and his leadership laid the foundation for centuries of Islamic civilization in those lands.
So for those living in those regions, Shurahbil's story isn't just ancient history, it's part of their heritage.
That's right, woven into the fabric of their societies.
It really underscores the power of, individual action.
Yeah.
That even those whose names, we might not know can have a real lasting impact on the world.
As we wrap up this deep dive into his life, I want to leave our listeners with this question.
Okay.
Who are the unsung heroes in your own lives?
That's a good question.
Those individuals who may not have widespread recognition but have profoundly touched your journey.
Yeah.
Take a moment to reflect on their contributions and the impact they've had on you.
Yeah, it's a good invitation for reflection.
Yeah.
And to all of you joining us on these deep dives, history is full of these hidden gems,
It is.
these stories that are waiting to be unearthed,
Yeah.
explored, and
Yeah.
shared.
Absolutely.
So until our next dive, keep seeking, keep learning, and keep unearthing these stories.
I'll see you then.